Welcome to another session of our lecture series. Today we will discuss an interesting topic which is entitled Trees as the Largest and Longest Living Plants. As we know that trees are unique organisms which show enormous power of longevity, varying from hundreds to thousands of years. This tremendous longevity proves advantageous to this group of plants by offering a large number of opportunities to fruit and seed. This wide reproductive opportunity enhances the fitness of the trees, and this is the reason why treeness as a trait has evolved in plants. The longevity of trees on one hand gives them reproductive advantages, while on the other hand helps them to accumulate huge biomass, resulting in their gigantic size. The characters which are responsible for the longevity and large size of trees are apical meristem activity, secondary growth, root growth, redundancy of branches and trunk, which results in large-scale replacement of dead and damaged organs, sectorality of vascular system, formation of clones, optimization of structure, hormonal coordination, synthesis of defensive compounds to defeat enemies, compartmentalization of decay, and wound healing. We will now discuss all these characters one by one. First, we will take up the growth in height by apical meristem activity. The trees increase in height and become taller by the continued activity of the apical meristem cells. This primary growth continuously adds cells to the vertical shoots, which become taller and taller. The new growth emanates from the division and elongation of the cells localized in the apical meristem. The elongating shoot shows a pattern of maturation which starts from the lower to the apical portion. The maturation process also involves lignification of the growing shoot, which makes it a woody structure. Second is the secondary growth or the growth in diameter. The activity of apical meristem in trees results in their tallness. As the tree grows taller, there should be a corresponding increase in the thickness or girth of the trunk, or else the tree may collapse. There is a beautiful coordination in trees vis-a-vis increase in tallness and girth. The trees increase their girth by secondary growth, which involves periclinal divisions in the vascular cambium and cork cambium. The cells of vascular cambium divide and cut cells towards both its inner and outer side. The cells towards the inner side are differentiated into xylem, while as those cut towards the outer side form the phloem. The xylem conducts water and consists of vessels, fibers and tracheids, which are thick-walled and thus also provide the mechanical strength. The only living cells of xylem are the xylem parenchyma, which in addition to conduction also store food. The phloem consists of sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma, and is associated with the transport of food from source to the sink. Another reason why these trees are the largest and longest living plants is the root growth. The above ground growth of trees demands that the root system should also grow for two immediate reasons. One, to absorb more water and nutrients from the soil for fulfilling the demand of the expanding shoot system. And second, to fix and support the tree firmly in the soil. The roots of trees show a coordinated growth pattern with the shoot system. The roots increase in length by the apical meristem and also increase in diameter by the secondary growth. This root growth in length and diameter make roots strong enough, both structurally and functionally, to support the aerial shoot system, both physically and physiologically. Another important trait of trees is the structure redundancy. The architecture of the trees is based on the principle of redundancy. A structure that is constituted of more components than it really needs at one time is said to be having the property of redundancy. This redundancy of parts helps the plants or these trees neutralize the damage or loss of vital parts incurred by any kind of damage to survive and live more, thus perpetuating the genotype. Trees form a large number of buds which remain dormant and are suppressed, therefore not elongating into shoots the next year of their formation. These buds are formed in the axils of leaves on the stem and are susceptible to be embedded inside the stem by the radial growth. However, it never happens, and the vascular trace connected to the bud for supplying sap grows accordingly and thus allows the bud to live and stay on the growing stem periphery. The bud dormancy is enforced by the inhibitory growth substances which come from the apical shoot. In the event of damage to the crown, which may interrupt the flow of these inhibitory substances, the bud dormancy is relieved and the buds form new shoots which emerge from the stem. These newly developed shoots or branches are called as apicomic branches. This apicomic branching can be best seen in trees after their pruning or breakage of the tree crown by wind or some other mechanical injury. In some cases, even if the entire tree is badly injured or damaged, apicomic branches arise from the base of the trunk to perpetuate the tree, lending it a new lease of life. These new shoots are called as stem sprouts. One more important trait of trees is the sectorality of the vascular system. The vascular system of a tree consists of tracheidy elements which appear like bundles of pipes in the trunk, which then branch out into the shoot and root system. Taking this picture as a blueprint, there seems a functional relationship of water transport between the pipe or pipes of a branch with the pipe of the root it's connected with. This picture makes one to believe that the transport of water from the soil to the particular branch in the shoot system takes place only or largely in the trunk pipe or pipes that connect that branch to its root pipe. This pattern of conduction envisages that there is a minimum of lateral or tangential spreading from one hydraulic flow way into the other. This design, called as sectorality of vascular system, presents trees as a composite of several hydraulically independent sectors. This sector design of the tree was proved by Larson et al., who injected the dye in Thuja occidentalis and found the pathway of water transport to be sectored. The sectorality of the vascular system in trees helps them live longer and especially prolong their old age by allowing it to sustain life in ever-diminishing portions of its structure. Trees have an important characteristic, that is the root system replacement. Trees have a capacity to rejuvenate the root system and thus can compensate and replace the whole old root system. There are evidences where the formation of new root system mitigates and neutralizes the detrimental pressure of hostile conditions on the existing root system. One such example is that of the coast redwood trees growing on floodplains which are susceptible to anaerobic conditions because of huge sedimentation burying the roots to deeper sediments. These trees develop new lateral roots in higher levels which replace and take over the function from the older and deep buried roots. Similar root replacement has been witnessed in Ohio leha tree, that is Metrosideros polymorpha, growing in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, partially buried in volcanic ash. The tree formed a new root system in the upper layers of the ash, replacing the older and buried ones. Both these instances of root replacement safely infer that the new root system aided in enhancing the longevity of these trees. These trees also show optimization of the structure. The trees are exposed to a large number of factors such as gravitational force, wind, snow loads, soil creep, earthquakes, and a host of other factors. Many of these factors can impact and topple the tree, but these trees have evolved means of defeating some of these forces by showing adaptive growth. The adaptive growth optimizes the structure by uniform load distribution. The load optimization is best exemplified by the taper of long conifer trunks, where maximum wood is grown in the lower trunk and least at the top. The lower trunk thus becomes strong to bear the stress, which is more at the lower portion than at the top. A leaning trunk also optimizes the structure by bowing upward, which minimizes the external load on the tree as a whole. Similarly, upright growth of a limb just below the position where the shoot has broken off is also an example of adaptive growth and structure optimization. Thus, it's this adaptive growth which has given trees the capability of growing smoothly under varied physical conditions and the potential to obey various physical laws very nicely. The formation of tension wood in angiospermic trees and compression wood in coniferous trees is also an example of adaptive growth which is indicated in optimizing the structure. Another important property of trees is their hormonal coordination. The hormones in the trees regulate a wide array of physiological and growth processes. Auxins are fixed as candidates for regulating apical dominance. They show a polar transport from the sites of their synthesis in the apical shoots down the tree, thus suppressing the lateral buds. Any damage which interrupts the polar transport of auxins helps the suppressed buds to grow and explains the basis of epicormic branching and stump sprouts. Auxins are also involved in the formation of compression wood. The tilted stems show a higher concentration of auxins on the lower sides, which is correlated with the development of compression wood at those sites. Auxins are also known to coordinate the cambial growth with the apical growth, which is critically essential for creating a tree of balanced form. Auxins, in association with other hormones, regulate and coordinate many plant processes, ranging from physiological ones to regulation of growth and form. The trees show a strong defensive system. The trees are well known for synthesizing defensive chemical compounds aimed at acquiring resistance against insects, fungi and other pests. These defensive compounds defend the structural integrity of trees against the threats posed by insects and fungi. Broadleaf trees invest a lot of resources in synthesis of their defensive chemicals, and their longevity has been found to correlate with the amount of resources partitioned for this function. Higher the investment in defensive system, higher is the longevity of the broadleaf tree. In coniferous trees, no such correlation exists. However, the longevity in these trees has been correlated with the resistance of wood decay. Precisely speaking, the defensive chemical substances synthesized by trees helps them to live longer and grow larger. Another important and interesting feature shown by the trees is the compartmentalization of decay. Trees have evolved a superb mechanism to resist progression of infections and decay inside. Once any internal part of the stem or other organ is infected or dead, the tree simply seals off that portion from the rest of the plant. This simply stops the decay or infection to progress beyond that portion of the plant. This phenomenon is popularly called as compartmentalization of decay in trees, or is pronounced as codit. Thus, this phenomenon of sealing and not healing, which is based on the principle of compartmentalization, helps a tree grow and live long, even though there may be some compartments or portions inside the tree structure which might have met death too early in the developmental history of that tree. The whole point is, when the trees are infected or injured, they form a boundary around the infected part and new cell growth starts. They do not restore or heal the old dead wood, but instead develop new cells around it which seal off this area. This compartmentalization helps separate the good wood safely from the infected or decayed wood. Last but not the least important property shown by the trees is the wound healing. Codit phenomena is also operative in wound healing. Once a tree is wounded, the tree forms new wood and bark to cover the wound. This wound tissue is called as callus, and the phenomenon of covering the wound is called as callusing over, wound closure or wound healing. These wounds can also trigger decay, so trees also compartmentalize the wound area, separating it from rest of the tree by both anatomical and physiological mechanisms. With this, we come to the end of today's lecture, in which we simply and precisely discussed the reasons why trees are considered to be the largest and longest living organisms. Hope after watching this lecture you are able to understand the reasons well behind the long life of the trees. Thank you for watching.